Hi everyone, welcome to my basic setup and game tutorial guide for Company of Heroes 2. There's been a lot of demand and people asking me for this, people who are new to the game and also people who are playing the game already that just want a couple of extra tips on micro and ways to play the game effectively. We're going to be going through a lot of things in this tutorial, so whether you have been playing for a long time or not, you might pick up some new things anyway, so do stick around. I have put a kind of schedule of what we're going to be looking at up. You'll be able to find it in the description of the channel as well, but I'll just run through that now with you. So we're going to be looking at remapping some of the keys on the keyboard to your mouse. This is very, very important. We're going to be looking at the CoH2 Options. So some descriptions of what they are, and as we've said here, visual explanations of the game settings and their advantages or benefits. Now, some of these settings do actually give you in-game tactical advantages, so we'll be having a look at those and which one of those are important. Game functions user interface. Here I'll be teaching you how to use everything that's inside the game window to interact with other players. You'll learn how to change the color of text so that you can send more important messages that are more visible when you need to. If you are someone that plans on streaming or streams to Twitch already, I will tell you how to pull the Twitch chat from Twitch to appear in-game rather than having to look at it on an external screen. And we'll also just look at basic chat messages. We're going to be looking at the map. That should be fairly straightforward. This will be like an explanation of what's on the map, how to use it properly, opening up the tactical map and using that. We'll have an explanation of resources, pop cap and manpower income, how that works and how it's going to affect you in the game. We'll be looking at squad control, how to assign squads to certain number keys on your keyboard, which is obviously really, really important for fast maneuverability on the field, making sure that you can snap to certain locations instantly. We'll be looking at the event queue section, which is something that a lot of people don't use to its maximum effect, so do have a look at that one. Buildings, teching, commanders and units should be pretty straightforward. This is just going to explain the basic concept of these, how they appear in the game, and there will be some more tutorials for individual factions. So if you are looking for how a specific faction techs up or works in terms of its building setup, then go and have a look at the individual faction tutorial. So the first thing that I want to do today is to go and set up Xmouse. Now you guys can get this from Google. It's very, very easy to get. Let's just go to Google, type in Xmouse, be like the first one that comes up. Click on this, download it. I would download the latest version. Obviously you can hurry through this, decide if you need a different version, but it's pretty much always going to be on here, this button. So once that's downloaded, I've obviously downloaded this already, so I'm just going to open that up now. Right, okay, so here you can see I've already made the profile Company of Heroes, but I'm going to tell you how to do that. Now, just to let you know exactly what's going on here, we are not changing buttons on the keyboard and switching them with other buttons. That's not what we're doing here. What we are doing is taking some very, very important keys that are on the keyboard that don't really make sense in terms of your hand micro, because there's no way that you could really stretch that far to hit the key. The ones that I'm talking about are insert and 0 on the numeric pad. Now both of these keys open up the tactical map into a full screen window. So the tactical map is obviously the minimap, you may also call it that, but you will want at some point in the game, hopefully, to bring that up into full screen, because that's going to give you a really, really clear picture of what's going on across the whole battlefield, and you just gives you the most map awareness. It's really, really important to use that. So if all your fingers and your hand is on the left hand side of the keyboard doing the micro, which is where it should be, which is where everything important is located, it really doesn't make sense for you to move your hand all the way over to the right hand side of the keyboard just to hit this one key when you need it. It also doesn't make sense to click on it with the mouse. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of those keys and we are going to attach that to the mouse button 4 on your mouse. So if you do have a mouse that supports mouse button 4 and 5, which is where your thumb sits on the mouse, then you're going to find this really, really useful in game. It's going to just make things very, very quick for you. So what we're going to do, we're going to go, obviously, add. Now your application probably won't appear in this window first time, so we're going to have to locate it. If you downloaded through Steam, then I'll show you exactly where that is. Otherwise, you're going to have to search for the directory for where this is stored. So we go to local disk C drive. Now program files, mine is the program files x86 because of the architecture of my computer. So it's really, if you see program files alone, then click on that one. If you do see program files with a number in, it's more likely to be in there. But go program files, search down for Steam. Once you're in Steam, go to Steam apps, common. Now you're looking for Company of Heroes 2. Once you're in this folder, you'll find Company of Heroes 2 application, which is the file of Company of Heroes. So you click that and open. Now, then you click OK. Now, I've already created the profile, so it won't let me add a multiple entry for that. However, for those of you that haven't done it before, it will now appear with Company of the Heroes 2 here. Make sure that this box is ticked. Now what you want to do is go down to mouse button 4, and I'll just let you guys know mouse button 4 is the mouse button that rests closest to your body, and mouse button 5 is the one that rests further away from your body, and obviously both of these buttons are relevant to your thumb, not any of your fingers. So mouse button 4 is the one really that we want to change here, because it rests on your thumb and it just makes it obviously very, very quick. All you have to do is put a little bit of pressure on with your thumb, suddenly the tactical map's open. So very, very useful to have it on this key. Now I've taken it from the insert. You can take it from insert or 0 on the numeric pad. All you need to do, click on this drop down menu and scroll down this list until you find simulated keys pressed. And all that means is that when you press insert on the keyboard, that would come up with the tactical map. Now it's going to be mapped over to mouse button 4 on your thumb. The other thing to point out that's very, very important is that by making an application Company of Heroes 2, this will only ever be mapped to mouse button 4 when Company of Heroes 2 is open. So you don't have to worry now about pressing this button whilst you're anywhere else in Windows and having something unexpected happen. It's not going to affect that. This will only take place when Company of Heroes 2 is open. So as you can imagine, you can do this with many other things. You know, if you want to remap the grenade button for a certain faction onto mouse button 5, or I personally use whatever the hotkey is for reverse. For me it's U, because I'm using classic hotkeys. For grid key, I think it's going to be E. But you can remap that on there as well, and it's again just going to speed up your game a little. Okay, so we can go ahead and close Xmouse now. We don't need that open anymore. Obviously you don't shut the program down completely. You don't want to exit it. It does need to be open in your taskbar, obviously, to be actively running when the game is running. Let's open Company of Heroes 2, and we'll have a little talk about the options. Okay, so we are now in the menu screen and lobby for Company of Heroes 2. And what we're going to do now is just go to menu and options and just have a look at some of the options that are available to us and how they affect the gameplay. So the first two on here should be fairly obvious about what they do, and also there is a description when you hover over all of these options. Just make sure that you know exactly what they mean. These two are really down to a matter of personal preference. They basically control, when you're using the arrow keys, how fast it makes the map move, and if you are using the map to push the camera by going to the edges of the screen, how fast it pushes the camera when you do that. Some people have it so that when you get to the edge of the screen, the camera just flies off to the end of the map. Some people have it so that when you edge to the edge of the screen, you know, it's very, very slow, so that you don't lose control of your vision on the engagements. So first of all, we're going to talk about screen resource warnings. Now in this game whenever something is available or unavailable, sorry, for purchase, so let's just say that you don't have the resources to build an infantry squad, the button for that infantry squad will be grayed out. So it appears in grey. It's a very, very clear visual indicator that you cannot afford that yet, so don't waste 3 or 4 seconds trying to figure out whether you can afford it or not. What happens if you turn this on is that all of the buttons for purchase, things like infantry, vehicles, everything, commander abilities as well, will be lit up. Now, I personally don't understand why anybody would want to play with resource warnings on, because it's just another thing for your brain to process. Oh, the button's lit up, but I can't use it. Why? Can't I afford it? Then you have to calculate how long till you can afford it. Just have the button off, because then it's like, oh, it's grey, so I just can't afford it already. I don't need to think about that anymore. That's kind of the end of it. You need to decide, obviously, how you feel about that, whether maybe there's an advantage to it that I don't know of. Personally, I've thought about it quite a lot and I haven't seen it. So my recommendation, turn on screen resource warnings off. The next one is for sticky selection. Allows you to deselect your units. I personally, again, this comes down to preference. I prefer to have my units constantly selected after I've clicked on them. So if I do select a unit and I have to move somewhere else on the map, it's still going to have my unit that I would clicked on selected, so it's always ready for me to move with the right mouse button unless I click on another unit. So what that means is that I can click on a unit, move the map to somewhere else on the screen, and then right click, and I don't have to worry about, oh, my unit's deselected, now it's not moving there when I've just told it to. The sticky selection always make sure that you have your last unit available for movement or ability use. So it's very useful if you are moving around the field a lot, and you don't want to have that worry of having the unit deselected after you've just moved somewhere, because again, that wastes an extra 3 or 4 seconds of your time. And in any RTS, you want to minimize the amount of time that you're wasting at any point. You always want to be gaining seconds over your opponent. So have a play around with it, see what you prefer. My recommendation, sticky selection goes on. Classic hotkeys. Okay, this is a touchy subject for everyone. I'm using classic hotkeys. This is just because, for me, classic hotkeys is what I used in Company of Heroes 1. I'm very familiar with the layout of classic hotkeys. It fits my hand positioning very well. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to flick over to a screen where you can see my keyboard, and I'll just quickly give you a small demonstration of what these do. Okay, so with classic hotkeys you have more of a spread layout, so some hand positioning, for instance. I sit like this whenever I play the game, 4 fingers resting on these keys. Tab is important, obviously some hotkeys for your units, ease, familiar grenades for instance for austere. You've got access to retreat and reinforce, reverse there, space. The event queues, I mean, it's very good. Anyway, what happens, the difference between them is that with classic hotkeys you have for every faction a different spread layout. You could be hotkeys over here, and there's plenty of different things. However, with grid keys you will be using 4 only. So grid keys relates to the 4 purchasable boxes or ability boxes that appear on the bottom right hand side of the screen. So the top line is QUER, and then just below that you've got these and then these. So a lot of people do actually prefer this because it just gives them constant access to do this with their keys. So it is very easy. It always relates to your hand position quite well. So you just, okay, yeah, you need that ability, it's there straight away. Okay, gotcha. Okay, let's quickly talk about the in-game chat for Company of Heroes 2. Now, you'll see the chat button here in the bottom left-hand side of the screen. Brings up a number of different chat rooms. These are widely unused by people in the community. it never really took off in the same way as it did as, for instance, Company of Heroes 1, probably for the best. If you ever witnessed what the chat content was in Company of Heroes 1, probably best that they shut that down, to be honest. However, one of the interesting things about this chat box is that it will pull in your Steam chat groups. Woohoo! So, for instance, Starcross Cup, which Romeo is hosting at the moment, you can see that's advertised here. That will just pull up the Steam chat for that Steam group here at the moment, so you can still kind of be in the game and chat to people there. It's just as easy to obviously use the Shift tab to bring up the Steam overlay, but you know, if you guys prefer using this window, it's there for you to use, no problem. Right, okay, now Twitch chat, for those of you that want to stream and have Twitch chat show up in game, there are many advantages to having Twitch chat show up in your game window, because obviously if you're playing an RTS, you don't really want to be taking your eyes off of the game window screen unless it's absolutely necessary. So let me just show you how to do that. Go to Menu and Options. You want to head over to Broadcasting, log in to your Twitch channel using your Twitch credentials. Then forget about everything on this list apart from this hide in game. That's going to hide the Twitch broadcast panel in the HUD. What that is that's this bar here. That will appear in your game if you're logged into Twitch and you don't have that selected. And obviously, as we're actually never going to turn this on, we don't want to see this at all. It's not going to show you any important information. It's just completely useless. So turn that off. Now you'll notice that when you are logged in, obviously click accept, it will come up with this little chat box here. This is the Twitch chat box that's now linked with your Twitch. Anybody that chats on Twitch will now pop up in here, and that will also show inside the game whilst you're playing. In the same area that your teammates would speak to you, you will now have Twitch chat there in a red color. So again, very, very useful for helping you to continue interacting with your community and playing the RTS to an acceptable level without too many distractions. Okay, let's move on to the lobby now. We want to go online and skirmish. I'm just going to show you this. It basically only works in match chat, so this won't work in any of the chat rooms on the game. But if we just open up match chat, it's a new window here. This will appear whenever you join a lobby or you're searching for a game. This is also exactly the same chat window that's going to be tied to the game that you're playing. So some of you guys may or may not know this already. When you type to a teammate normally, I'm just going to show you this now, you would type in hello, my name is Stormless. It comes up in a white font. Now I'm just going to move this chat window as to where this would normally appear in the game. Inside the game, this will appear around this area. Obviously it won't have the big black box around it, but just this chat would come up here. Now as you can see, it's quite a big area of game window. Your teammate may or may not see this. It's obviously easier to see at the start of the game, but if there's engagements going on, perhaps your teammate isn't looking for those kind of things, or he hasn't heard the chat noise. So we want to give him a message that is going to be a lot more visible to him. Now, the way to do this, you will type /emote space and then your message. So we're just going to put attack the base. You will now see that that comes up in a purple color, and that will happen in game as well. Your teammate and your opponent, if you send it to everyone, is more likely to see that message now. So it's very, very good. If you haven't got voice communications on, it will give a little bit more of a communication benefit for your team that is typing to each other. Yeah, that's how you do that. There are some other commands and things as well. I would suggest typing. Got a serious word muddling going on there. I would suggest typing /help, and that will bring up a list of things that you can use in the game. It's worth noting as well that when you're inside the game, I will show you this very shortly again, just for those that have skipped this section. If you want to type to your team inside the game, you just press enter, type your message, that will send it to the team only. and if you want to type to everybody in the game, that is all players, teammates and opponents, then you hold shift and press enter, and that will then open a text box that sends a message globally. Alright, so we've got past the chat section now, and we're going to launch into a custom game. We're going to play on Leglay's Breakout. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And let's add a computer player. We'll let's add Easy Soviets, just so I have enough time to explain everything without the game running me into my base like crazy. And let's start the game and wait for that to load. Alright, so let's start the game. The first thing that I want you guys to try, if you did go through the X-mouse part of the tutorial where we were remapping the mouse keys with the insert and numeric 0 button, you will now be able to open your tactical map by pressing mouse button 4 on your mouse. That's where your thumb sits. So if you do that right now, that will bring up this map. If it hasn't worked, then go through that tutorial again, make sure that you've done everything correctly, make sure that the box is ticked and selected properly. Otherwise, you can access the tactical map by pressing on this button here, pressing insert on your keyboard, or pressing 0 on the numeric pad. So it should give you 4 ways of doing it. Obviously, having it on the mouse button is the fastest and most efficient way of doing that. Now, first of all, we're going to have a look at the 2 different maps. So you have here the tactical map, which is the bigger one. It will also show you what each territory is giving you in terms of resource income. So a standard circle point here, which is a strategic point, this will give you +5 munitions and +3 fuel per minute added to your resource counter. The fuel points here will give you more fuel but no munitions, and the munitions points will give you obviously more munitions but no fuel. The stars on the map represent victory points, and that is related to this bar at the top here. Any second now you're going to see my opponent capture the middle star VP, because that's something the AI always seems to do. There we go. Now what that means, you'll see that this ticker has now started going down. And the idea is that you need to stop that ticker from draining to 0 whilst draining your opponent's ticker to 0. There's 2 ways you can win. You can either completely wipe out your enemy's base, or you can drain the victory points down to 0. You'll see that that number's going down quite quickly because I don't have any VPs to match him. If both players have got 1 VP each, this will not move. But if your opponent has 2 VPs and you have 1, it will move a bit slowly. So I'm going to run over and capture that right now so that this game doesn't finish immediately. Let's have a look at the resource bar. So the first thing that we have here that's interesting is manpower. We're currently getting 293 manpower in per second, and this is about to change when I build this unit. Now, this unit here, the way that manpower works is the bigger an army you have, the less manpower you receive. And this is to stop players from getting an uncontrollably large army on the field very quickly. And also protects players who have lost a bit of their army, allowing them to get back in the game. So you'll notice that's gone down to 285 now. So if you were, for instance, to wipe a large amount of your opponent's army, they would be able to get units and get back in the game quicker because their manpower rate would go up. It's not by loads, but it is enough to stop players from just getting completely wiped after they lose a couple of units. The next one is obviously the munitions. Munitions, they're used for upgrading weapons and abilities. That can be abilities that are from a commander, say for instance the Stuka Close Air Support in this doctrine, or it could be upgrading weapons like the G43s that you see at the top of this menu now. They cost 45 munitions to upgrade a squad with those. It's also used for things like grenades, so it is a resource that you want to have a lot of. The other one, fuel here. Fuel is used for obviously purchasing your vehicles and things like that. That's even if they're off-map vehicles, you know, like Tiger tanks, elephants, IS-2s, that kind of thing. It's also used for teching up when you want to build new buildings that can produce those units. So for instance, we're going to upgrade to Battle Phase 1 very shortly. That's going to cost me 100 manpower and 40 of the fuel resource. So that, of course, very important to have fuel, because without it you're not going to be able to tech up to bigger units. You're also not going to be able to call in tanks, which give you a big advantage over your opponent. The last one is population cap. Now, population cap again refers to how many units you have on the field. Small units like pioneers here or infantry are only going to cost you a small amount of pop cap. As we'll have a look here, the pioneers cost 5 pop cap. An MG42, for instance, costs 6. You'll find that as you get bigger units, say for instance a Tiger tank, that's going to cost you 24 population cap. So it is important to keep track of how much population cap you're using throughout the game, because if your army gets too big, you're not going to be able to bring those big units in towards the end of the game without throwing parts of your army away, which is, of course, is not something you really want to be doing. So do keep an eye over your population cap. Because you want to make sure that you've always got a little bit left for those heavy tanks at the end of the game. I will just tell you as well how to change the camera angles very quickly, so that you're aware of this. Get rid of that sniper, that's an annoying thing.
Granted access to superior arms and soldiers.
It's easy AI, so he's probably not going to retreat. There we go. Now, with the map control, you'll notice that you can move the camera like this so that you can see different views of the map. Also, if you need to see around a building because you don't have line of sight, or go bird's eye view, don't know why you'd ever really need that, but I guess it's good if you're planning tank flanks. I mean, oh, you got caught by that satchel charge. Now, the way to control this map, the camera, is to press and hold Alt on your keyboard. Press and hold Alt, and now the mouse, moving the mouse, is going to control the camera centered around a point of the center of the screen. So you can just move over here and get a different angle, or, you know, if you, as I said before, you couldn't see around this building, so we can just quickly move around here so you now have a view of it. If you want to snap the camera back to its original position, hit backspace, and that will bring it vertically to where it was before, and then hit backspace again, and that is going to take you to the correct northern facing angle that you had originally. So having a good view of the map is pretty essential, to be honest, to playing this game. You will need to use that for some points when your opponent's hiding things. They may, for instance, put mines or demo charges on parts of buildings that you can't see initially. So it's always good to just have a quick check using that camera angle switcher. Okay, so right now we're going to talk about how to micro units and assign them to hotkeys. This is the squad control section. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this unit that I've got here and I want to assign it to control group 1, which is number 1 obviously on the keyboard. You can see here. It's currently on that unit, just ignore that for the time being. So to do that, I will highlight the unit that I want, press and hold control on the keyboard, and then tap the number that you want it to be assigned to. You'll now notice that this unit has the figure 1 in its portrait here, and also correspondingly up here on the top right hand side. Now every time I press 1, that unit is going to be selected. You can see that here. If I select this unit here, when I press 1 on the keyboard, it's now selected this squad here. This is really useful in making sure that you can control units on the map very quickly. I'm also going to show you how to use camera snap as well. If I move the camera over here away from the battle, let's just say over here. Now without touching anything else, I'm going to put both my hands in so you can see this. Double tapping 1 is going to take me straight to that squad. This obviously means that you can assign a number of units to things like this. I'm going to put the MG on 4, I'm going to put this squad on 5. Now by tapping like 1 and 4, you can see I can just switch between these two squads really quickly. That's a lot more time efficient than using the mouse to, 1, identify which squad is which, and then snap to it. some interesting ways of using this, including a general layout for hotkeys. I will be doing a little bit later on. I always find, for instance, that having a set of engineers on number 5 for me is very, very beneficial. It just means that if I ever need repairs, all I have to do, double tap 5 and then click on the vehicle that I need repaired, or just click 5 now and it will select it. Okay, so let's have a look at Shift Q commands. Now, for instance, this squad on the right hand side here. Normally, to capture a point, you would click on it and you would probably wait for that squad to finish. Once it's captured, you click on another point. Obviously, again, we don't want to be doing that for every unit on the field continuously. Oh, look, they've finished. Click somewhere else. In order to make things very, very efficient, we can queue commands that we give to our units. So to do that, what you do is you click on something, then to select another unit for it to follow, hold shift and then click. I'm just going to click another strategic point here. Now you'll notice that the unit hasn't moved straight off to that point. What they're going to do is they're going to capture this first and then they're going to move over to the next command, which is to capture this point. That means I've shift queued those commands, and you can do this for a number of things as well. So if I do that and then I'm going to go back and build this next tier, again holding the shift key and building that again, you'll notice that it comes up transparently to show that that's worked. They're going to capture this point first and then they're going to go back to base and build that building. Now that is very, very useful because that means I don't have to watch that unit unless it gets into trouble for quite a long time. That leaves me to micro engagements on the front line with, you know, much more attention. I can basically give a lot more attention to things on the field that require it, rather than constantly looking at this squad and ordering them around to capture different things. The next one that I want to introduce you to is grouping units together. Now this follows the exact same thing that we did before about getting a unit and putting it on a number. So we can see that those numbers are still working for us at the moment. Now if I was to select both of my engineer squads here, you can do that again by holding shift and selecting multiple units. That's the sticky selection key. I'm going to select both of my engineers. You can also do this if you drag as well, that works. I'm now going to press Control and 5, and now you'll see that both of those units are on control group 5. Now obviously with having two units in different places, if I press snap now by double tapping on 5, it's going to take me to the nearest one, which is not really ideal in terms of, you know, having groups separated on the battlefield. What you want to do is have units that are close together on one control group. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get these two grenadiers. These guys are going to stick together for the majority of the game right now, so I'm going to put them on control group 1. Engineers are going to do the same thing. They're going to be on control group 5. This is just my own personal preference for numbers, by the way. You can use it as you want. So now, as I'm running, these guys will stay together. Wherever I am, I know that I've got both of those units together. As I say, you don't want to be doing things like this where you have here, if I've now got the the grenadiers and the two engineers on 5, and it's just going to take me, it's not taking me to the riflemen where I need to go. So as I say, make sure you use those correctly and so that they benefit you properly. The next thing that I want to talk to you about, which is something that's going to appear in the hotkey and micro tips tutorial, but I just want to tell you this now because it is going to really, really help you. You may have noticed that I managed to spread my units out previously while still having the group selected. Now I want to introduce you to a key that is going to change your life in this game, and that is the tab key. When you have multiple units selected in this window down at the bottom here, if I press tab on the keyboard, you'll see that it cycles through the units in the order that they are in. What that means is that if I have these multiple units selected, I can press tab, click, and then select another squad using tab and click here. This means the units are going to split apart rather than both running in the same direction. Now you can use this for capping obviously very quickly, but what this also means is that you can spread your units out should you come into any problems very quickly. Let's just take for instance the example of these grenadiers here. who are on the run and they encounter a tank, very quickly tab left and right, the two units will split apart, and that's going to stop you getting any kind of nasty squad wipes that you don't want, and you know, anything else like that. So again, shift is very, very good. Shift also works with the, tab also works with the shift key. So you know, you can tab, get this unit to capture a few things, press tab, then get this unit to capture a few things. It just makes the way that you control your squad very, very quick, very, very fluent. If you can master doing that quickly, you can get multiple units in a squad doing, you know, a ton of jobs in very, very good time. Okay, the event queue section. Now, we spoke about this a little bit when we were in the options. This is a very, very important thing that is unused. Now you'll see here, this is the event queue section on the left hand side of the screen, and you'll see that these things here will come up every time something happens on the map. You see the yellow circle pop up first, you might hear an audio command in your headphones, and also it will pop up here. Now what this does is it means if you are, for instance, focused on, I'm in my base right now, we've just had this point captured alert, I'm going to double click on that, and it will take me over to where that happened. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to send an infantry squad to show this. Send an infantry squad over here. Now when they detect a unit, it's going to come up with an audio command in my headphones that says, oh, we've spotted an enemy unit. It's then going to bring the text up here.
Opponents are seizing a sector.
Here we go, enemies revealed. Double click on that, that'll take me straight to where that is. Now the space bar will automatically do that for you. So you guys can see I'm pressing space here. That is going to cycle through the event queues. Now one of the best uses for this is if you have minesweepers and you are, let's just say we're focusing on the left hand side, and your unit comes across a mine, you can press space and it will take you to that exact location, which is really, really useful if you're trying to disarm mines and demo charges, and you don't want to get blown up by them. So here we go, something just happened in the top hand corner here. I'm going to press the space and it's going to take me straight to that. It's worth noting as well that space will cycle through these in order that they happen, so it may not always take you directly to that queue first time. You just have to keep cycling through what's happening. So do try and get used to this. The second that you hear something in your headphones that represents units in trouble, then hit the space bar if you're not doing something important already, and that will take you straight over to that. I can't emphasize how useful that is, to have something that does all that work for you. Okay, so the next thing we want to have a look at is buildings, teching, and different units. Now, what you'll get at the start of every game is a couple of units that are most likely going to be engineers. These engineers can be used to build things. The only exception to this is the British faction and the USF faction, who already have their buildings built for them. But, I mean, say for instance the OS tier, these units will be able to build all of the tiers that you need to produce new units. Now, as we've already spoken, you need fuel in order to upgrade and build these buildings. You also need fuel to bring the units out of them. For instance, tier 4 here, which is otherwise known as Battle Phase 3, only produces heavy vehicles. So you would need fuel, obviously, one, to tech up to that, and then to build that building and then bring the unit out. So we are currently teching up at the moment. As you're playing the game, depending on the resources you've got, if you think you are comfortable enough in your resources and your map control to tech up, then that usually means it's time for you to tech up and start getting some bigger vehicles out. So what I'm going to do now, you can see we've already gone up to Battle Phase 2. I will click on my Pioneers and then I can build that. This is going to allow me to build some medium tanks, notably the Ostwind and the Panzer IV. Now, obviously, more powerful units are restricted to higher tiers, so at the start of the game you're not going to be able to build things like the Scout Car, the AT guns. This is something you have to earn in the early game, So go and get a lot of map control, dominate over your opponent with the start game units, and then tech up. You want to be planning your tech to either gain an advantage over your opponent or to counter your opponent for something he has on the field. So let's just say, for instance, I know that my opponent has that half track on the field. So for instance, the Panzer IV medium tank, I can afford it right now, so that's going to be the best way to counter that. Alternatively, if I didn't have the fuel in order to build one of these, I could build the AT gun, which is again a very good counter to that unit. So get to know the units for every faction, because you want to know which units counter different things. If you go and have a look at my tutorials, I've done a tutorial, or will be doing a tutorial, for every single faction, where I will be telling you which units can counter certain other units, and also giving you some decent build orders for you to practice with, so that you get used to playing with a smaller sized army at the start of the game, then teching up, allowing yourself to have a powerful unit that will give you a couple of minutes advantage over your opponent. So if you're interested in playing a specific faction a little bit better, then obviously go and check out some of those tutorials. One of the important things with micros, I wanted to stay away from it in this video, just because I didn't want to go too deep into micro. There is going to be a separate video on micro tutorial, but also, you know, whilst you're playing, let's just have a look at this user interface section here. You'll notice that whether you're using grid hotkeys or classic hotkeys, it will tell you which key on the keyboard is the shortcut for this ability. So for instance, let's just use reinforce here. I've got a squad that needs reinforcing. It's telling me that R on my keyboard is to reinforce, so I'm going to press R. It will then reinforce for me. So yeah, basically that's it. Get to grips with some of the hotkeys and things like that. There is going to be another tutorial on micro, some micro tips and things like that, some little tricks for you to try out in terms of controlling your units, and also some build orders as well. So go and check that out. I hope this has been useful to you. As I say, this is going to be broken up into sections, so if you need to look at something specifically, or you want to just take it one section at a time, you will be able to skip through the video, have a look at the link at the bottom. I have divided it into section times for you. If you have any questions, or you feel I haven't explained something well enough, or you want to know just a little more about it, please do leave me a comment, or you can drop me a message on CoH2.org, and I will happily help you out. I'm forever helping people in this game, and just trying to make sure that everyone in the community is the best player that they can be, because obviously it makes the game a lot more fun when you have a community built up of good players that know everything they need to know about the game. So yeah, also if anyone's interested, you know, if you're really struggling and you want me to hop into a game with you and do some training, then as I say, leave me a comment on here. I can't promise that I'm going to be able to do it for everyone, but I will try my best to organize a time where I can, you know, maybe play like through one game with you and just answer any questions and give you some tips that you need. Alternatively, you guys can come and see me stream on www.twitch.tv/Stormless. www.twitch.tv/Stormless. Not Stormless. I stream pretty much every day when possible, and you'll be able to see me implementing all these things as I go along. And again, I'll be able to answer any questions that you have there. So please do check that out. Link is in the description, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Like and subscribe, guys. Thanks very much.